I feel like I'm supposed to like tell about myself, but yeah. I had the books organized by where I got them at, but un- I had to unorganize them to put them into a shelf or like a stack so that way they would look aesthetically pleasing for a picture. So they're no longer organized. A lot of the books are like more mainstream or probably what you see a lot of booktube, bookstagram talking about. I had like 2 or 3 books that I knew that I wanted to get that have probably been popular for a couple of years now that I just never read, and I had at least a book that I knew that I wanted to get from a store, so that way I had something to get. So a lot of these books are probably what you've seen before, heard about before, you probably have read it, but I just wanted to pick them up. The first book that I have is the updated edition of The Defining Decade by Dr. Meg J. So I actually read the first edition of The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter, and How to Make the Most of Them last summer during quarantine when I turned 21. And I really liked it. I thought that it had tangible advice. I think one of the things that I judge like a nonfiction like self-help book or like lifestyle practice book is by how easy it is to read, like how accessible it is for someone who may not read very much, like if they're just picking it up and they see it in the store. I felt like the advice was really easy to follow and it has stories and stuff. I saw this in a bookstore back home, and I'm not really one to pick up a second edition or an updated volume or anything like that, but this is a lot thicker than the first edition, and I kind of flipped through it and I saw that it had a lot more advice, and I really liked how the first one was written, so I went ahead and picked this one up. The second book I have is How to Be Fine, What We Learned from Living by the Rules of 50 Self-Help Books, written by Jolinta Greenberg and Kristen Meinzer. They run a podcast. I'm not sure what the podcast is called, or host of the By the Book podcast right there. And so this was something I remember at the Strand, and it was like on their kind of one of their front tables that have like the staff recommendations and picks, and so I just flipped through it and I really like the advice that I saw just like in the heading, and so I picked this up. I think I already said this, but I'm not really like, I am not a huge fan of self-help because I think things can get repetitive, but I like things that are also concise, so I thought this would be a good pick. The third book I have is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otesha Moshfegh, and so this is definitely one of the more popular books in the booktube community. I think that I remember Paperback Dreams talking about this, and from my understanding, it's basically about a young woman who, I think her parents pass away and just how she copes with that. I really don't know what it's about. I just remember seeing and hearing about it, and I thought that it looked interesting, and I really like a like gritty, like that's not the word. I don't know. I really like a good, like, it's not all perfect kind of book. So I picked this one up at Books Are Magic. The next book I have is You by Caroline Kepnes. This is the book that the Netflix show Story was based off of. And so I started reading this on like some kind of like digital book platform, and I think I got to like chapter 8. And I knew that I wanted to go ahead and pick up the paperback version or like just the in-hand version. I really prefer reading books like just holding them and stuff like that. And because I've watched all of You on Netflix, and you know, it's just like, I feel like the show is so good because everything seems like really familiar, but I appreciate reading it. And I have just heard that, you know, the book is just so much better, or, you know, all that kind of good stuff. So I went ahead and picked this one up, and this will probably be the first one that I pick up and start reading. Next book I have is Barbara the Slut and Other People by Lauren Holmes. This is a collection of essays written by Lauren Holmes and just her experiences with family, relationships, and just I think as she grows into her womanhood. And I saw this in the Strand. It was also on the same table with like the author recommendations. I'm really like leaning into like nonfiction, like essay collections and experiences of other people. I think that is just like so interesting and insightful just to see like other perspectives and the way that other people navigate the world and advice that they have to give. And so I just knew that this one was going to come home with me. The next book I got is probably the most popular book that I have, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So this is all over BookTube, all over Bookstagram, all over Book Talk. Like, this is the book to get. From my understanding, it follows like Greek mythology and like different characters in that, but it's easily consumable for someone like myself who doesn't know a lot about Greek mythology, or like maybe the limit to what you know about it kind of like stops in like ninth grade, which is probably the last time that I learned about Greek mythology in ninth grade English. So, but I heard that not only is it a story, but it also introduces Greek mythology in a way that is kind of like easily understandable and also enjoyable for someone. But on the flip side, if you do enjoy or like regularly consume Greek mythology, you would also really like it. So I was like, yeah, like let me give it a shot. I always see it, like it's always on like the front of the shelves at any bookstore. I hadn't picked this one up. I can't remember where I got this one. I think I got it from the 4-story Barnes & Noble in Union Square, I think. I can't remember, but I'm excited for this one. Next book I have is Severance by Ling Ma. This is also kind of like a popular one. I didn't really know what this was about. I can't remember who gave like the more detailed synopsis on BookTube, but from my understanding, it's about a young woman and her experience of like work and what that means to her during the pandemic. And I didn't realize that it was like that new, I guess. Like I didn't realize that it would revolved around her experiences as far as like working and like feeling appreciated or having time off like during the pandemic. And so that description of the synopsis is what really pulled me in, so I went ahead and picked this one up. What I have is Nice Girls Just Don't Get It by Dr. Lois P. Frankel and Dr. Carol Frolinger. This was a book that I found at the basement of the Strand in like the business like money section that I just happened to find. I had already picked up like 2 books, like not paying attention to my 1 book per store thing. And I was down there looking for my boyfriend because we were in different parts of the store, and he was in the business section, and I just saw girls on it, so I was like, yeah. And so I picked it up, and it actually seemed like it had a lot of good tips as far as like how to like be a woman in the workforce and stuff like that. I just graduated from college, and I'll be entering and joining the workforce, so I was like, this will be good for me to pick up and read. And it's just like I always like flip through, like I always am like, what's it look like and stuff like that. And what I saw, I was like, yeah, I'll pick it up. So I got this one at the Strand, I remember for sure. The next book I have is Professional Troublemaker by Luvi Ajayi Jones. So I've definitely seen this book kind of floating around more so in like the self-help community. And it's kind of like, I think from the cover, I thought it was about also another book as far as like working and like office values and things like that. But I think it's really also a book about like self-discovery, being honest with yourself, being honest with others, and, you know, setting boundaries and stuff like that. And I've seen it making its rounds, and also seeing Luvi herself you know, talking to people and like listening to her TED Talk. So I knew that this was something that I wanted to pick up, and I'm excited to read it as well. The last 3 books that I have are all like mystery thrillers. That's like my love in my heart, that I just love reading thrillers. And so let's get into it. And they're all like fairly new. I think they're all like really new. The first one I have is Every Vow You Break by Peter Swanson. So this is about a woman and a man going, I think they're going on their honeymoon or some kind of marriage retreat. I'm pretty sure it's a marriage retreat, and the woman in the couple has had some kind of like one night stand, or she, you know, was with some guy like right before she got married, like the wedding ceremony, and that guy shows up and starts kind of like wreaking havoc on their getaway, and it's like somewhere isolated and just like all messy, honestly. Like what I like. So what I have is The Hunting Wives by May Cobb. Gabby Reed's definitely put me on to this one. She honestly puts me on the majority of the mystery thrillers that I pick up, and this one is about a woman who she moves from a bigger city, I think it was Chicago, down to someplace like more southern. I want to say Georgia, but it might be like Missouri. I don't know. And she joins this group called the Hunting Wives, and they like hunt. Like honestly, like it's like a vibe. I don't know why I say it's a vibe. I've never hunted in my life, but I feel like I think I remember her saying that there was a lot of like power dynamics and like obsession, and this cover is like fabulous. I mean, it's that blue. Anyway, so I'm excited to read all of them, like I said. So as I was editing, I realized that I said that the last 3 books that I had were all mystery thrillers. The one that I'm about to talk about is actually not a thriller, it is a romance novel. The last book I have is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. It is about two authors who like bump into each other at like a writing convention or something like that, and I'm not sure if they knew each other previously or like had some kind of thing going on previously, but like apparently they have some kind of beef. They're not friends, and through some circumstance or another, they are spending a lot of time together and pretty much like falling for each other in that time. And I got this one at Books Are Magic. I think it was like the new nonfiction. I remember someone talking about this on BookTube, but it's based in Brooklyn, so it was like, okay, like I'll get it, I'll pick it up. I also have The Maidens by Alex Michaelides on pre-order, so hopefully that should get here sometime like June 17th or June 18th. And yeah, I'm excited. That's like my number one that I'm excited for, and it's not even here. I don't even have it. The next video that I probably do will have to be like my TBR, or maybe I can show you guys my bookshelves or something like that. So stay tuned. Okay, bye.